Should we take roll first, or do I need read the preamble first?
Can you read the preamble first?
City of Brisbane, did you want to put it on screen at the same time, Justin, or should I have it here, I can just read it.
I can put it on. Let me pull it up. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. We are required by the state of California to read the following preamble regarding hybrid internet and hybrid-based meetings. City of Brisbane Complete Street Safety Committee meeting agenda, Monday, August 2nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. virtual meeting. This meeting is compliant with the governor's executive order N-08-21 issued on June 21st, 2021, allowing for deviation of teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. The purpose of this is to provide the safest environment for staff, committee members, and the public while allowing for public participation. The public may address the committee using exclusively remote public comment options, which Justin just reviewed. The committee may take action on any item listed in the agenda. Public meeting videos. Members of the public may view the Complete Street Safety Committee meeting by logging into the Zoom meeting listed below. Complete Street Safety Committee meetings can also be viewed live and/or on demand via the city's YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/BrisbaneCA or on Comcast Channel 27. Archive videos can be replayed on the city's website, http://brisbaneca.org/meetings. Joined by Zoom. Topic: Complete Street Safety Committee meeting. Time: August 2nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time, United States and Canada, at www.brisbaneca.org/CSSC-Zoom. Meeting ID 976-0955-7422. Passcode 747389. Joined by phone 1-669-900-9128. Meeting ID 976-0955-7422. To address the committee. When an item you are interested in appears on the agenda, you may address the committee at that time. If the matter you are interested in is not on the committee's agenda, but is a matter that is within the committee's subject matter jurisdiction, you may address it under public comment. Remote public comments. Meeting participants are encouraged to submit public comments in writing in advance of the meeting. The following email will be monitored during the meeting, and public comments received will be read into the record during oral communications or during an item. Email jyun, JYUEN @brisbaneca.org. Special assistance. If you need special assistance to participate in this meeting, please contact Justin Yoon at jyun, JYUEN @brisbaneca.org or 415-508-2139. Notification in advance of the meeting will enable the city to make reasonable arrangements to ensure accessibility for this meeting. Are we ready to start then?
I think so. Let's see. I just need to make sure that Anne, our broadcast person, knows to start the live stream. Let's let's see.
Hi, Justin. This is Ann. You're streaming.
Okay, we're good.
Yep, everything's great.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to start recording the meeting on my end then.
She would have live streamed that preamble because that's who wants to know it.
I apologize.
Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot about that.
Justin, this is
Yeah.
Ann. I apologize. We started the stream before the preamble because it seemed like you were ready
Okay,
to go.
great.
So you've been live.
Okay, good. I'm just going to record on Zoom now just for the backup. So we have the backup recording.
I call
Okay.
the meeting to order. Justin, could you proceed with the roll call, please?
Sure. Patrick Tainer,
Present.
Alex Bain,
Present.
Linda Detmer. Linda, you're on mute.
And I'm present.
James Christie,
Present.
Christian Cabrera,
Present.
and Alex Lau. And Alex isn't here with us. Oh, no, he is. Hold on.
Sorry, hi, here.
Hi, Alex. Sorry.
Hi, thanks.
Okay.
Could-
And I
looks
guess-
like-
And so it looks like we're all here.
Okay, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I'll make
I'll
a
make a
motion.
motion. I'll second it.
Okay. Are there any oral communications for tonight from the public?
Not on an item on the agenda.
Yes,
That are not
Andrew,
on the agenda?
Andrew, did you have any comment on anything not on the agenda?
No, it's on the agenda, sorry.
Okay.
You want to introduce Sean since he's on the meeting?
Yes, so, sorry, hold on one sec. Okay, so, yeah, so we have our summer intern for Public Works. Sean is here, helping us out with our streets projects, helping us update our streetlight inventory. He's also going to be working on the design for our Crocker Trail resurfacing project and helping out with other capital projects and asset inventories. So welcome, Sean, and thanks for helping me take the minutes for tonight's meeting.
Yes,
Sean,
welcome.
yeah, and Sean is a rising senior at UC Irvine, studying civil engineering, right? Excellent.
Great.
So welcome to our meeting.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome.
Do we have anyone in I see the community meeting room listed as a participant?
Yeah, they're handling the broadcast of this meeting.
It's just
Okay,
MCTV.
so.
Yep.
Okay, so no other members of the public there that we know of?
We're not doing a
Well, we do-
hybrid meeting.
Well, we do have 3 members of the public. They're set as attendees, not panelists.
But they're not in the community meeting room. This isn't a
Yeah, they're
hybrid.
not.
This is still virtual.
Right.
Okay. All right. Moving on then on the agenda, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting in May? And if so, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
From someone who's not on mute.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, moving
Um,
on to new.
Okay, sorry, I think I was supposed to do roll call there.
Okay, sorry.
Approval of the minutes. Sorry about that. Patrick,
Aye.
Alex Bain,
Aye.
Linda,
Unmute.
Linda, you're on mute.
You good?
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Christian,
Aye.
Alex Lau. Where did Alex go?
Lost him.
Oh. Let's see. Oh, and he's not in the. Huh. Okay. Okay, well, I guess the minutes are, oh, wait, he came back. Alex, Alex Lau, we were voting on approval of the minutes. What is your vote on for approval of the minutes?
Sorry, aye, sorry about that. I
Oh, no
lost
worries.
Connection.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so the minutes are approved.
Okay. Let's move on to new business then. Item A, discuss resident inquiry about bicycle safety on Bayshore Boulevard at northbound 101 off-ramp. I believe we have visitors who would like to address the committee on this item.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name is Andrew Kuhn. I've been a Brisbane resident for about 7 years. I have a very brief slideshow that if you'd be okay with, I can show you because I think a picture may be worth 1,000 words here.
Yeah, I have the PowerPoint loaded up. I can
Great.
pull that up for you. Okay, can everyone see that?
I sure can.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So if you can just jump to slide 2, we'll orient everyone. This is in the southeast corner of Brisbane, where Highway 101, the yellow line, has an on-ramp or an off-ramp from 101 onto Bayshore Boulevard. The next slide shows it in a little bit more detail. And sorry, I actually turned it. And then I also highlighted the bike lane that currently is there. That's the green line, as bike lanes tend to be. And also a black and yellow dotted line for the raised center median of the road separating the northbound and southbound lanes in that specific section. There's a reason for that, and I'll get to it in just another slide. So go ahead and keep going. Slide 4. So I know that we've made some recent improvements to this area. We had some flex posts added in the center. You can see there better green paint, wonderful, and a flashing yellow light, which is just off screen to the left of the car that's seen in the foreground. I think those were added in about 2018. That's just my own memory. Obviously, this team would know it much better than I do. But unfortunately, they haven't made a meaningful impact in changing driver behavior. When a cyclist gets to the end of this solid green section, if there's traffic approaching from the cyclist's right, where you can see the convertible is right now on the screen, the convertible, I think, should have to stop or yield to the cyclist, even if they were previously going, 60 miles an hour coming off of the highway. What makes this a little bit more interesting is the cyclists also have to deal with the traffic on their left, so they're kind of forced through this gauntlet. That gauntlet is also an uphill gauntlet. For those who've done any cycling or bike riding, it's a little bit harder to keep a nice straight line when you're going up a hill, even more so if you're going up a hill trying to look over your shoulder for a gap in the road and avoid the flexible hit posts. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I'll get it in slightly more detail from the other view. So this is if you're a car traveling off of 101 coming onto Bayshore, you can see the flashing yellow lights now and the sign that's been added, and all the improvements that have been made. But as I said, it does seem that drivers are unaware that they're required to yield to bicycle traffic in this situation. I commute by bike to and from work every day, and I very rarely have, I think maybe almost never, have a car actually slow down to let me cross at the head of the solid painted green section. I typically have to frantically wave or just wait and hope to have a good opportunity to pass between the traffic. Nobody slows for the cyclists. And as you know, the speed limit sign right there says 45, so you can expect cars are doing anywhere between 40 and 60 miles an hour on both sections of that. That center median that I pointed out earlier, it's not quite shown here, but if you can appreciate that, you know, the road is what 12 feet wide, vehicle is 8 feet wide. There's really not room for a vehicle and a bike in the bike lane and the 3 feet that you would want to have to safely pass. So it does make it more challenging, especially with larger vehicles, big SUVs, trucks that are often in this area, city buses. This is on a bus route as well. So I didn't want to just kind of complain about this. I brought some solutions too, if we can go down to slide 7. Really, I've just got a few ideas that made sense to me. I think some of these the committee's already very well aware of. The purpose isn't to say do one of these. It's to say I think there's something we could do, and if we study it a little bit more, we could probably find a great solution. Maybe it's one of these exactly. More likely, it's something that the team figures out, and yeah, just want to get minds working. So obviously, a stoplight, flashing red lights, a big sign that says, you know, it's a crosswalk. You have to stop when it's red, and maybe a beg button or some sensors, I think would be ideal to detect bicycle traffic in the green paint to give a red light. This is similar to what's done on El Camino in, I think it might be San Mateo or Burlingame. There's a couple pedestrian crossings across the 4 lanes of El Camino Avenue that use a very similar function. There's a beg button off on the sidewalk, and as soon as a pedestrian might hit that, the red lights start flashing and cars are rather obediently stop at the appropriate time and space. Some potential problems with this, drivers coming off of 101 are going to hate having to stop and will probably complain, and those complaints will go to you guys, and that might force it to be removed. Just politically speaking, I understand how that might work. And it treats one of the problems, the driver behavior, but it doesn't fix the fact that bikes still have to cross a lane of car traffic. And I think there's some other options that I've indicated in the next slide that resolve that too. Oh, and sorry, I gave all the proposals little names. So the last one was named lights and signs. It'll just help you if we have further discussion afterwards, keep track of the different proposals that we're talking about. So that was lights and signs. This one is the Hillside Bikeway. Trying to keep it catchy here. This just puts a 2-lane bi-directional bike path, wider bike path, right up against the side of the hill. It's kind of the default that most of the other bike riders I talked to have said, hey, why don't you do this? But the challenges are pretty obvious. The kind of dotted blue line section is where there's a lot of houses that would need to have a break in that protected bike lane. There's at least 2 roadways and several businesses and other homes that would need access to go through the bikeway in order to get to Bayshore. So good solution, maybe not the best solution, but certainly something I wanted to bring up because it seems like the obvious thing. Just move the northbound and southbound bike traffic onto the west side of Bayshore. I thought the good places to reconnect to standard, east and west or right and left side bike lanes would be at the intersection just our side of the big towers, on the left of the screen, and then on the right of the screen, right at the entrance to the main entrance to Brisbane that everybody uses, the Tunnel Road. So that's Hillside Bikeway. The next one is the center strip bikeway. It's almost the exact same thing. It just moves the bike lane into the center as a median. It's fairly similar to what's done in San Mateo on 3rd Street, if you're ever over there. There's just this center strip. It's fully protected with nice tall concrete, and pedestrians and bicyclists use this all the time. So it's just a different idea. It does solve the problem of having to have a lot of cuts in the bikeway to allow access to homes, businesses and everything else. But you would still have to have a few because you probably can't block off a full mile of Bayshore Avenue like that to being able to be crossed. So that's the center strip bikeway. And the last one here is my personal favorite, but obviously I've got a bias, so feel free to take it at under advisement only if you need. I call this the Bikeway Bypass. We just cut a path from the low point where Bayshore and 101 are really close to each other, and just cut through the woods all the way over to it's like the old VWR parking lot. Down here in the bottom right corner of the screen, and then just follow that parking lot up and either connect right at the outlet of San Bruno Avenue or at VWR Road. Finally, just a quick summary. The current solution, I think, is not having the result the team intended. The roadway provides inadequate safety for all road users. Many options exist, including the 4 that I mentioned. I think I'm just asking the Complete Streets Subcommittee to proceed with an in-depth study. If there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, but I've also taken quite a bit of time, so thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Committee, any questions or discussion?
I have a question. Thank you for your presentation. Would you say there's 2 main concerns? One being the crossover, from the flyover off-ramp off 101 and crossing that section, as you see in slide 5. Is that one concern, and is that a separate concern for having some type of pathway for the rest of Bayshore?
I think it's really just one concern, the fact that cars and bikes have to mix at this point or at any point. Maybe I didn't understand your question.
Well, I'm just looking at some of your proposals, because some of your proposals, suggest pathways, on either side, or a bypass down Bayshore, further down. So I'm wondering if that's the current issue of if you were just going on Bayshore along the along the right side, riding along that side, is that a, I assume with those proposals that's an issue right now on riding on Bayshore as well.
No, I'm
in addition
comfortable
to
riding
crossing over at this area.
Yeah, so riding southbound on Bayshore is perfectly nice, and a lot of people seem very comfortable doing so. So it's not the traffic itself; it's when you have to cross some traffic that isn't controlled, right? So if we're able to cross traffic at a controlled intersection with a stoplight, wonderful. If we're able to cross the 101 traffic here at a controlled intersection with a light, great. It's the occasions where you have to mix with traffic that's not likely doing the same speed. I think very highly of my own riding abilities, but I definitely can't do 40 miles an hour up a hill.
Understood. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thanks for putting together the presentation. I agree, that's a tough bicycle off-ramp. I mean, I've been on it both on a bike and in a car, and it can be very unsettling if the car is coming at you 60 miles an hour behind you over your shoulder and you're trying to cross over. So I appreciate you bringing this up and putting together some of these proposals.
Thanks.
I mean, this is kind of the committee to ask questions, but I wanted to ask, what is the vehicle traffic like at times? Well, I guess it's just your northbound commute. So what time of day is that typically?
For me, it's between about 5:30 and 7:30.
And is the traffic like heavy, medium, light? How would you characterize it?
Well, today was pretty average, and just because I had this coming, I counted. So while I was in the green paint, there were 6 cars from my right and 1 car from my left, and nobody slowed down.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that the committee probably wants to ask other questions, but I just wanted to mention a few things about this. Originally, we did have a traffic engineer do a study to come up with this plan. And it was actually this committee or prior members of the Complete Streets Committee that had us add the delineators that are there on the right side of the bike lane. So originally, if you'd had ridden it back then, it was just the green paint. And I think I do ride a bike and I comfortably, but I don't ride this way. I don't commute south. I don't live in Brisbane, but I think that the delineators did improve the safety somewhat. I mean, I guess I'm saying I take exception to it didn't really change conditions, because before that, people that were coming off of the flyover, the off ramp, if they were behind someone slow, they were just swerving into the number 1 lane, across that bike lane as if it didn't exist. So
Yeah.
we've trimmed that down, and that's been somewhat of a help.
I agree. I rode it before it was a bike lane. Though the one time, I don't drive too often, but the one time I was driving here and did see a cyclist in the green paint, slowed way down for him, gave him plenty of room to cross. The car that was behind me got impatient with me and crossed over, despite the flex hit post too. They ran over the post, or they managed to get between them to race around both of us. Terrifying for the cyclist.
Right. So I think that the original concept of this design and the reason that run out of that green lane is so long is that the bicyclist would get into it and have that much space to find an opening to get over when it was safe. And you didn't necessarily have to wait for the end to do that. And we also did get the feedback that stopping traffic, that Caltrans was going to be opposed to that because it could back up onto the ramp. They don't like that at all.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I
this
just
off ramp is the better part of a half a mile. I'm not a traffic engineer, but that seems a bit far-fetched, to be quite honest.
long. It also seems we wanted to look at maybe some other comparable. We had a couple of other thoughts about comparable situations like this. Sorry, my cat's really on screen here, but I think it'd be really difficult to get vehicles to stop. I think that's next to impossible at those speeds. Like the crossings, I'm not sure on El Camino, it's the speed limit there, 25, 35.
Yeah, maybe 35.
Yeah, and this is not an intersection other than it's a crossing of bicyclists.
I don't disagree, which is really the purpose of the following 3 presentations or proposals.
Right.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the same concerns.
Yeah, and then the other ones, we have batted around the idea of having like an undercrossing at least at the flyover, which Justin reminded me at some point in the future, Caltrans will be relocating in the next, I don't know, number of years because of their managed lane project. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but they're planning to add I'm going to explain it, but Justin will try. A toll lane on 101 on the 380 south. Sorry. Yes. South, I don't know why I'm turned around, to the south county limit, and then 380 north would be the second phase. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the managed lane would be in the far left lane. This phase of the project would, as Karen said, it would span on 101 between 380 and the San Francisco. city limit. And as part of that planned project, Caltrans would basically reconstruct the flyover bridge, the overpass for the off ramp, because the current bridge is actually substandard. So they would reconstruct a new one adjacent to it, and there would be opportunity at that point to do more to reconfigure that merge, where that new flyover intersects with Bayshore. There'd be more opportunity to influence the design and make it as safe as possible for cyclists, to Caltrans' satisfaction and to the city's satisfaction. But that's still a number of years away. I want to say they're anticipating construction to begin in 2027.
So, but to clarify, Justin, what you're saying, I don't remember now at that meeting, they're not considering at this point a different, like a grade separated crossing, right?
No, but they would be looking to reconfigure the bike lane merge as part of that design. Let's see, I had a couple of hands raised.
Justin, I guess I have a question. It doesn't seem clear who has the right of way. I mean, because that could be confusing. And I mean, I do understand, first of all, I want to, I mean, that was a very good presentation, and that is a very good, valid point. I use that road a lot, and I'm always a little scattered how to manage that area. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. So one of the things, I could sort of see is that it's not 100% clear who needs to stop. That's one thing. And then the other thing is talking in terms of, the long term. It's also, there's some other plans in terms of the Baylands that they wanted to do, like a bike, little expressway, so to speak. So maybe this could be an opportunity to further explore that or look into that.
Well, so as far as the right-of-way question, Commander Garcia wasn't able to attend this meeting, but I did talk to him before this meeting and to the Public Works Director, and the consensus. Our opinion is that the cyclists in this situation would yield to vehicular traffic when making that crossing. And the reason for that is because the bike lane itself crosses over the vehicle travel lane to the shoulder on the right. And this is also a location where cars are expected to accelerate from the off-ramp, where the advisory speed is 35 miles an hour to the speed limit here on Bayshore, which is 45. So this is not a location where cars are slowing down. So our consensus is that our belief is that that in this situation, because that bike lane crosses over, that the cyclists would be expected to yield to cars at this particular spot. Karen, do you have anything else to add about that?
Yeah, I think it's a tough place with, like you said, they're coming off of the freeway at the 35-mile-per-hour warning onto a street that's speed limit is 45, and asking them to stop at a spot that's not an intersection on what is, an arterial street that's essentially like an at-grade highway almost. It's tough. I just don't think, I don't want to create an expectation for a cyclist that cars are going to stop when they're not gonna stop all of them, some maybe would comply.
Yeah, by putting the green paint there, as a cyclist, if there's green paint, I believe I have the right of way.
Actually, I
It's-
think on the traffic, well, we can look into the further guidelines. I believe that if someone is traveling in a forward direction, they have the right of way over anyone merging into that lane
But
Yeah,
in general.
they're
So
both
whether it be
lanes,
yeah.
right? From a
because
cyclist
one is-
perspective, the dashed
No, your
lane
one's-
is a bike lane.
crossing, but you're crossing over, the bicycle lane is crossing over into that.
The vehicle lane is
merging into
crossing the
that
bike lane.
So
I mean,
well,
it's an apples, it's a chicken and egg issue, right?
well, because
The bike lane is crossing the traffic lane is crossing the bike lane.
but the bike lane is starting on the left side and is crossing over to the right, whereas
The traffic lane is starting on the right side and crossing over to the left. I mean, sorry, my attorney could do this with you guys all day. I hope to never be hit there, so we never have to find out. But I can say with pretty high confidence that a cyclist in the green section will at least believe that they have the right of way. Whether that's legally true or not, I'm sure we can debate. But the cyclist will believe that they've got the right of way.
You might be making a case that that section shouldn't have been painted green. That's possible, but I wouldn't think that that would be a common perception that you would just plow ahead, that cycle. I don't think any of them are, and I hope, knock on wood, I don't think we've had an accident there yet, that a cyclist would just cut across that lane when, like you said, people are going sometimes up to 60 miles per hour on Bayshore. We try to police it, but you can't catch everyone. And there's a lot of visibility, and it's straight for a bit, and we'll pick up their speed there.
Yeah, there is a difference between having the right of way and using it, though, right? As I indicated, I don't cross until it's clear. Now, I may end up almost stopped there and waving frantically at traffic, trying to get somebody to recognize the fact that I'm in need of crossing.
So, okay, so
if there's other community members on the call, they may also be able to add some light, I think.
yeah, so Peter
one or two
Grace
others.
has his hand raised. Let's see, Peter, you're on mute.
And no dispute that this is a really challenging spot, and some of your other suggestions are really good ideas, none of them very cheap.
Fair.
And that's a challenge.
Peter Grace.
I
can
see a
s-
couple of hands raised. Linda has her hand raised. Peter Grace his hand.
Sorry, Linda had her hand raised first. If you don't mind, Peter. Linda, can you unmute?
Thank you. Andrew, thank you very much for your presentation. I thought it was excellent. And I find this bike lane to be terrifying, and I don't ride a bike, but just in being aware of the circumstances of driving in Brisbane since I've been on this committee, I've become more aware of hazards, and this one has always been high on my personal priority list as a scary one for all bikers. And being that our city council, I believe, just declared ecological emergency, or I'm
Climate
sure
emergency.
climate emergency. And part of the push is to get people out of vehicles that are creating pollution and walking and biking more. It's kind of a contradiction in what this bike lane does, because it is a scary crossover. I mean, it's just, I'm so glad nobody's been hurt there yet, but it may happen still. And I've actually thought about just about all of your ideas, particularly the one of making a 2-lane bikeway, even if it just started from San Bruno and Bayshore and went to South City. I think that would be an improvement. But again, getting the money for these things is really hard. And I think we might propose a subcommittee to look at this one more time and see. Because another thing about that bike lane coming up from South San Francisco to the north is that there's a lot of overgrowth on the flyover. And it's very difficult to see if there's a bike coming or a car coming from whichever perspective that you have. So I wouldn't mind being on a subcommittee to look at this and see if there's just a simpler, easier way that's safer for people to use their bikes on this road. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, Peter, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you very much, Linda, for thinking about some of the things that the bicyclists face. Let me say, as a cyclist, I don't like this area at all, and for multiple reasons. One is, as Andrew has pointed out, there's gravel often on the green carpet, which needs sweeping more often. I've just been looking at Google Maps and photographs, and while I agree there's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and there's a suggestion that the cars need to accelerate to 65 miles an hour or 55 to get into sequence with the cars on the left-hand side that are coming north on Bayshore. Why don't we have a protected lane for that 101 off-ramp that goes much, much, much further? So they can take much, much longer to accelerate to join the traffic. You know, I don't buy, to be honest, this bit that we can't do anything because cars are have got to accelerate to join the Bayshore traffic. Well, let's make a protected lane all the way up for much further, so cars can't come in from Bayshore, and cars on the 101 off ramp can't move across to Bayshore without crossing that solid white line. I actually drove it today. There is a radar warning sign. You know, is this just a false sign, or is anything ever being done there? I'd love to know. And I agree with Linda. You come off 101 and there is vegetation around. It's hard to see what's going on. And I feel that there is this limited sight line and you can't see the bikes. So, and I agree with Andrew. My belief is that if there's been green paint on the line, it means cyclists have priority. And I don't buy, to be honest, if we put a stop sign or a beg button, that you're going to get a big backup onto 101 off ramp. I don't buy that. I believe there's a much, much longer section than is realized. At the time it takes for a bicyclist to get across is very limited. I'm sure that the crossing time can be reduced significantly to make sensible for bikers. So thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Okay, so we have a hand raised. Brian, I'm gonna let Brian go ahead.
Hi, could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Brian Dorad here. Just want to first of all tell you my experience with this. I usually, as soon as I come to the section, I look over to my right and make sure no cars are around, and then I sprint across. And I'm a pretty good sprinter, so I'm pretty safe. But I know once you stop and you lose your momentum, it's so hard to cross safely. So I always make sure I'm moving and then I sprint across. So that's my experience. But also I like the last option where you create a new bike path going down around the mountain. But what I would suggest is to make it shorter, like just underneath, just to go underneath the overpass and come up shortly afterwards, so you could convene back to this road and you could walk, or you could drive along the side. Also, I do see a lot of people walking up and walking down, not just on bike, but walking along this way, and they have to cross and cross against the traffic as well. So it would be a nice choice for them to walk around this path as well, underneath the overpass. So that's just I like that last option, but just shorter though.
Any
I'm
other,
done.
any other public comments or committee comments?
I mean, Andrew put a lot of work into this, and I think the last time we've had this many members of the public come, it was bicyclists on an issue I believe about Old County Road lat. And Andrew's request was just that we form a committee to investigate this, not that we come up with solutions tonight. And we've already gotten Linda to volunteer, so we could have a subcommittee of at least one, or if we could get a few more members to join it, I think that's a reasonable response, just to put a little more study into this issue.
I agree with that. You know, we have a couple of other cyclists on the committee. Do we have some volunteers who would work with Linda?
I'd be willing to volunteer to help with this.
Yeah, I could also volunteer.
Okay.
Okay, so Linda, Christian, and Alex Bain.
And I will also add, you know, is it possible to maybe give priority to have more clarity who has the right of way in the meanwhile, just to avoid that confusion?
Yeah, again, we can discuss with police and public works to look more closely into that. How police would enforce that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, Christian, and Linda. If I could make a few comments on this, I'm glad we are forming a subcommittee to look at this. I am no longer a bicycle commuter, but I was in the past. And I know the feeling when you run into situations like this. As a driver who looks at this, both as a driver coming off the freeway and thinking about it as a cyclist, I look at the green painted area and I think, gee, that looks awfully narrow, because the few cyclists that I have encountered here, some of them have been wobbling as they go up the hill. And as a driver, my concern is that they're going to inadvertently stray into a traffic lane. And that has always been my major concern when I've encountered cyclists on here. I think only one time have I come across one that was actually at the point of crossing. And, you know, I just stopped for them. But I know to stop there, if there's traffic behind you that is not stopping, that creates a hazard as well, because I don't think anyone does 35 across that off ramp. I think they're well over that speed, just as there's not a lot of people who are sticking to just 45 on Bayshore itself. So I'm glad we have a subcommittee that's working forward, going forward on this.
It's a little bit of a space issue, the way it was designed, at the way it was designed, because you're supposed to have a certain separation between the traffic northbound, the traffic southbound in the median. But here, I hear your point. And just for the bicyclists on the call, I managed the street sweeping contract, and I think that was a good point, because I don't know if it's specifically spelled out for them to sweep the bike lane. They sweep at the curb. I've been talking, I've been muted. So I was going to say, I manage the street sweeping contract, and I think it's not specifically spelled out to sweep that green area. They typically sweep curbs and shoulders. So I'll see if we can get more attention on that in the short term.
Great, thank you. All right, do we need action to form a subcommittee in terms of a vote, Justin, or we can just form it the way we've done it?
No, I don't think a vote's needed. I think we can just I think we can just form it as people have volunteered. So that's Linda, Christian, and Alex Bain.
Okay, any more comments, questions, or thoughts on this topic? All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andrew, for an excellent presentation. Thank you, members of the public, for your comments, and the subcommittee members we will look forward to what your study finds. Let's move on then to old business. Item B would be potential parking issues in central Brisbane. Jane?
Yeah, the subcommittee met right before the meeting, and we reviewed the results of the parking survey we gave out in April. And Justin, could you share the results with the committee, please?
Sure. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so it's been a while since we last talked about the questionnaire survey that was released in the Star to residents, asking them several questions about parking in central Brisbane. So the survey closed at the end of May, I believe. It was open for about a month. People were able to fill it out using a link online electronically, or filling out the survey on paper in the Star and sending it back to City Hall. So we got a total of 329 responses to the survey. Some of them may have been from the same household, but that's 329 individuals who did respond. And this is a summary of the results. So the first question we asked, do you feel there's a parking shortage problem in central Brisbane as a whole? And over 75% said that they agreed to some extent, either strongly or somewhat. And that's almost half who said that they strongly agree. And then number two, do you feel there's a parking shortage problem on your block specifically? And again, over 75% responded that they agree to some extent, with almost half saying that they strongly agree that there's a problem on their block. And then we asked if you agree to question number two, if you agree that there's a shortage problem on your block, what do you believe is the cause of the issue? And so most people said, that people in their block have too many cars, or that people don't use their driveway or garage for parking. Those were the most common responses, followed by not enough physical space on the street, followed by suspected non-residents or visitors, and then a minority saying overflow parking from businesses or other streets. And then we gave respondents an opportunity to type in a custom response, a free response to the question. And so those free responses were kind of all over the place. There were some people who commented on zoning and the parking requirements not being strict enough. Again, a lot of people saying that people don't use their garage and they leave their cars out for too long. So we didn't really notice any trend. There were a few people who said, who talked about multifamily units and Airbnbs. So there wasn't really a trend. The responses were there were a variety of responses. So what I can do is I can send the raw data, an Excel sheet with the raw data, to the committee, and you can take a closer look at the free responses that we got, and see what people had to say about that. We won't go into detail about each custom response, but I can send the raw data out so you guys can take a look at that more closely. The next question, we listed out several proposed potential strategies and asked for people's opinion about what they thought of each one. So for the permit program,
Excuse me, Justin, can you zoom in a little bit to
Sure.
enlarge the presentation?
yeah, absolutely. How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
So, so for the permit program, we had more than half, I think it was about 64%, who said that they agree either somewhat or strongly in support of that strategy. And then the remaining 36% oppose that strategy to some extent. And then for expanding street sweeping zones to discourage individuals from parking for long periods of time, we had a lot more responses strongly in support of this strategy, but overall, again, it was about 64% said that they agreed, that they support to some extent, and the remaining 36% opposing to some extent. And then the one-time financial incentive to get people to clean out their garage, it was more, you can see it was more evenly split, with a slight majority opposing this strategy. And then the higher citation fees for parking violations, again, it was pretty evenly split with a slight majority in support of that. And then the last option that we provided was no action from the city needed. And just the vast majority of, well, the majority of respondents either somewhat or strongly opposed to that, which I guess indicates that they want the city and the committee to come up with some solution to the issue.
Justin, what's the percentage of people who want the city to take some sort of action?
I didn't
Which would
actually
be- I know
calculate.
I know it's a double negative, but yeah, let's.
Sorry, I didn't actually calculate. I just calculated the two that got the strongest support, but I can do that really quick. Let's see. Oh, my calculator's at home. I'll just use Excel. Sorry, bear with me just a moment here. Okay, so 70% were opposed to that and 30% in support. So 70-30.
So 70% of the city wants the city to do something about parking, or 70% of the survey respondents want the city to do something about parking.
Yes.
Got it. Anything else you want to share about the survey results, Justin?
Yeah, let me go back to that. Okay, so then the last three questions were free response. So I won't go into the free response answers in detail. So number 5, we asked, do you have any alternative suggestions to those strategies? And there, as you can see, there were quite a lot of free responses. You know, there were a number of respondents who suggested something like a satellite lot. There were respondents who requested for more active enforcement of parking violations. You know, but again, they were there was a big variety of the different types of responses, and they were kind of all over the place. Again, some of them talked about ADUs and housing and parking requirements for new development. So we didn't notice any trends. But again, you can take a look. I'll send the data and you can take a look at what everyone had to say. Any others? And then number 6, any other suggestions or comments? Again, there was just a wide variety of responses that were really kind of all over the place. And the last question was just, what block do you live on? Just so we get an idea of the geographic distribution. And the vast majority of people live in central Brisbane. And then there were a few the few respondents who are residents up at the Ridge. So the vast majority of people were central Brisbane residents. So that's it. That's just a quick summary of the results of the survey. James, do you want to talk about next steps or facilitate a discussion?
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to share this data with the committee. Like we as a subcommittee, given how emotionally charged and how important of an issue this is, we didn't want to make any recommendations or suggestions before discussing it with the whole committee. So we're very interested in hearing each of the committee members' kind of initial thoughts on this data. And based off of, after that discussion, we could then also discuss potential next steps of what recommendations we could possibly give to council, or if we even feel ready to do that yet. But yeah, we definitely want to hear the committee members' thoughts on just hearing this data right now.
$400 responses is great. Thanks for doing the study. I don't think it shows there's any surprises with some of the responses, unless you guys think otherwise. It might be helpful to review some of the free responses to see if there are certain trends in terms of like suggestions. But it sounded like, that which might be helpful in terms of looking at possible solutions or proposals. But and then would we have to make recommendations, like if there was a recommendation for having permits, the number of permits allowed per home or address, do we make those recommendations, or just kind of leave it up to city council to figure out those details?
I think what the next step would be, if we wanted to make recommendations, is that we would meet with our liaisons of the council to kind of get their sense. And they could either tell us to give them like, hey, we like this idea. Could you do more research on us and give us a more detailed proposal? Or, hey, we like this idea, we want to run with it. We'll tell city staff to implement it. Yeah, I think the next step is if we get to the step where we feel ready to give a recommendation, I believe the next step is us meeting with our council liaisons and giving them the recommendations and kind of getting their thoughts on it.
What was did you have a number in mind of responses that you felt was sufficient to, get a sense of what public opinion would be?
My personal opinion is I feel this is a pretty representative survey. I mean, granted, you may have people more passionate about parking who were more likely to respond, but we're a town of 4,500 people, and we've got, I believe it was 330 responders, and that could possibly be 10% of about 10% of our adult population who responded.
Which is a lot,
Which
more
is-
than a lot of other city surveys.
Yeah, and I'm not a statistician, but that sounds like a representative sample.
Yeah, I think I need to take a look at the data more carefully. But and how many people from the Ridge were surveyed? Because that could skew the results.
Well,
'Cause they were out of the scope, right?
well, we put it in the star, which goes out to every resident. So, you know, we didn't just, there was no
It's
way
interesting.
there was no way
Yeah.
to just focus on the central Brisbane residents, but most people were central Brisbane residents who responded.
Yeah. I think also it's interesting in the Ridge that, you know, they, I don't know what their comments are. I don't know if you can link and see what their comments are, because in the Ridge, I think there's still that provision that you need to park your vehicles in the driveway or in the garage, because if you leave them on the roadways and they're there for more than 72 hours, your neighbors call the police and they come and put a nice big orange sticker on your car.
That
Yeah,
is correct.
That's a very good comment, because that actually brings me to my next question. You know, the city, the building codes, maybe we want to run some of this stuff by them, because they sort of know like how many cars can be in, you know, per house, and depending on the size of the house and what's grandfather and why not, just to have an idea, because that could also help out with the you know, with the whole question about, you know, how many permits to get for a household and stuff like that.
What, oh, you mean based on the number of parking spaces on a property?
Yeah, because like, you know, if you're doing some sort of construction in your house, or, you know, there's always a question too, you know, is it, you know, it's going to impact your garage, or you need to make it bigger, stuff like that. So there's probably some guidelines that they go by. But then again, there's grandfather law, you know, amount of cars that they probably the household will have. I'm not sure. I'm just saying it will be beneficial to run it by them, to get an idea, you know, how they deal with the garage and how many cars can they allocate to that.
Yeah, that's I don't imagine that's easy. Given, I mean, we have our zoning code has requirements, you know, based on lot size, how many on and off street spaces need to be provided. With the small lot size, I imagine sometimes it's difficult to, you know, to be able to fit, you know, off street parking on properties that are relatively small in area. So that being said, I don't know if the building or planning department has a database of the you know, an inventory of the number of spaces that are on each property. That's, you know, that's something that we would have to look at.
I think they have it. They have it per square footage or bedrooms of the house. It's more like, you know, per house. Because, you know, I have gotten permits before, and that's a question. But also when you know, in terms of, then again, the whole permit, you know, way that could be approached, most likely they're going to have to fill up a form, and the form is going to have questions. And based on those questions, then you could get either one permit or two permit. And also, you know, be mindful that, and to a certain extent, this is going to infringe in people's freedom. They're going to be like, why do I need to tell you how many cars I have, or et cetera, you know, because it's one thing is to say, okay, you're allowed to, based on your property and the garage, of the size of your property and the garage, you're allowed, you know, it's for one car garage, whatever. But this is not only about the car garage, it's about street parking.
Right.
So do you think there should be, you know, if there was a proposal like a residential parking, and city council wanted some more research or recommendations, would it still go to the public, you know, for discussion prior to implementation? so that maybe that other 90% that didn't fill out some of the surveys would voice their opinion at that time when they would find out that, hey, this actually might be coming around. And so some of those individuals with multiple cars or like that may
I mean,
say
we
something.
could as a committee, like say, hey, this is what we're thinking. We want to get public comment. Like, what do you think about a permit program? What do you think about greater enforcement or enforcement of street sweeping? Like no parking on certain days for certain times for street sweeping. That is also something we can do so we can get more of a finger on the pulse on the community and also hear from people who might not have done the survey.
So do you think, you think what, after you've once you have a recommendation in mind, you would want to invite the public to actively invite the public to attend the meeting and comment, or are you thinking next month for next meeting?
We could do that. I mean, we could invite the public when we have a recommendation in mind. Particularly if we say something kind of clear, like, parking permit program or enforce street sweeping, that might arouse more people's interest, because when we solicited public comment before, I believe in May, we only got one member of the public to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And
What
I'm
about
also, go on. Well, I'm also sensing that a lot of the members of the committee, including the subcommittee, are still digesting this data. So we might even want to take another month just to kind of sit with it. That's also another potential. And sorry, Pat, I cut you off.
No problem. Go ahead and finish.
I just finished. I just said my thought.
Okay. One thought in terms of engaging the public, what about a workshop like was done for the Crocker Trail that we publicize very heavily and make an organized presentation of the public of the ideas and have their comments real time right then and with polls and so forth.
The challenge to some degree is a consultant did that they put, a pretty good effort into getting all that together. I mean, it doesn't mean that we can't. I just hope that if we went to all that trouble that people would actually come, because, they tend to, for some reason, we're hearing from people after the fact instead of beforehand. Be a few beforehand, but mostly after.
Right. It's, no matter how much we advertise, workshops and meetings, again, it's, not everyone is, motivated to speak up at that point until something is actually done. But, I think that I think for a future meeting, again, we can actively advertise, that meeting to the public like we've done before. And hopefully, at least we will have made an effort to reach out to the public, through all our avenues of communication, to get participation. So again,
okay,
we can consider a workshop, but I'm not sure if it would be any different from just having, our regular meeting to discuss the recommendations.
I guess what I was thinking may be something that was on the lines of the subcommittee itself having a public meeting. I don't know if that's possible, if that's allowed, but just to get more public engagement.
You can do that. You can invite people, yeah. Right.
I just think that this is an emotional enough issue, and it has been kind of high on a lot of people's priority list for many, many years. And it just seems to engender very strong feelings from both sides.
Yeah, and probably have to do some more research, because even if you did come up with a residential parking permit program and trying to come up with a number of, a number allotted per household or whatever, if you did come up with number, let's say 2, and you went to some random street and you calculated a number of houses there, are there even enough, like, how many spots are on the street, compared to if every household got, two spots, 2 permits, are there even enough?
I mean, on some of the blocks we studied, there wouldn't be enough spots. Well, I mean, what I'm thinking is that we give everybody a homework assignment on the committee to kind of go through the data and to kind of mull it over. And then we'll reconvene and discuss this again in September and maybe brainstorm some potential solutions then. And either in October, we either invite our council liaisons or we have a meeting where we invite the public to kind of either get the council's take on where we're heading or at least the public's take on where we're heading. That's what I'm thinking in terms of next steps.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I think we are scheduled to have a council liaison meeting pretty soon. So that'll be right in line with, with the committee's thoughts about the, about potential solutions, and we can brainstorm with them what we think.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like we've done this some good justice for now. Pat or other committee members, do you have any other questions or anything else we need to talk about before we move on to the next item?
Okay, thank you, James.
You're welcome.
I guess when Justin, if you can, as soon as you're able to send that out, if everyone would please make an effort to review it, make some notes, especially if you review it sooner rather than later. And then let's come to the next meeting well prepared to discuss our thoughts and ideas on the data that we've seen.
Yep. And then, and again, for our future upcoming council liaison meeting, then we'll discuss, any potential recommendations with them before an official recommendation.
I think that would be good. Great. Okay, if nothing else on that, let's move on to the other subcommittee items. First one would be expansion of safe pedestrian routes to schools. Christian, do you have anything to report?
So we did, that field work, so to speak. We drove around. Are you referring to the survey we did in the Crocker Park?
Yeah, when we went up in Valley Drive and all. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Correct. Yeah. So we drove around, and I'm putting together another table where we're going to show what sides of the street have a sidewalk and what sides it doesn't. It's very funny that one side has a sidewalk and the other one doesn't, and this is consistent through the whole Crocker Park, and I don't know what was the case, but so the idea is to have sidewalks and have people be able to use those. It's not, there's plenty of space to put them, so I don't think space is going to be a limited factor there. And in terms of the topography, it's pretty flat, so it's just going to be a matter of putting sidewalks and provide those business park with a sidewalk. But we also checked out Bayshore. And so I think that one, I got to get together with Pat and talk more about it. I'm not ready to give my what I think So I'm not ready to give an assessment. I would like to review with Pat first, and I'll probably do when I complete that that other table.
Okay, thank you. Just some of my thoughts on that. When we went along Bayshore, something that sticks in my mind is the lack of sidewalks along Bayshore. And, there is the trailer park, and I'm not sure how many units there are in the trailer park, but there are families that live there. They really do not have a safe walking access to the rest of the city. And so that is one of the things we looked at. We went along Bayshore, seeing if something could be constructed coming back to Old County or coming up over San Bruno Avenue. That is one of the other areas that we looked at as well.
Yeah, that's always been a really big gap in the pedestrian network. On Bayshore, especially, the lack of connection between the mobile home park and central Brisbane, either going towards San Bruno Avenue or going towards Bayshore. That's always been something that's on our wish list. I believe, I don't know what the status of the 30 unit proposed condo development at Bayshore and VWR is at the moment, but I believe there were plans to install a new sidewalk between the condo development and Old County Road to the north. And this condo development is right next to the mobile home park. So there would be, if that were to happen, there would be a connection, a sidewalk connection to South Brisbane.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, because those are the opportunities that you have to get those developers to sort of do some community work.
Right.
But in terms of the sidewalk there, we have the bike lane, so we have to think about that. It seems like the stretch from the trailer park to Old County Road is not that difficult, but we definitely have to consider the bike lane. But going from the trailer park to San Bruno, also there is parking on the side of the road off the trailer park, so that's another sort of obstacle on the way, so to speak. But it's going to be more challenging to figure something out from trailer park to San Bruno. But from the trailer park to Old County Road, it doesn't seem that challenging. But then again, you have the bike lane, and if you have that condominium, that'll be a good time to get those folks involved, make them do a sidewalk.
Yeah. So that's the purpose of this exercise is, from a planning perspective, looking at the gaps and, updating our bike ped master plan accordingly. So that we have that in there as, as a project that is the project that is on our wish list for future funding.
So just on that future funding, would there any be future funding that like from the Baylands project that may it could be used for these sidewalks, and if we're going to plan on that, how would you incorporate these possible bike lanes for this Bayshore issue that we have into that as well?
I think Karen wants to say something.
I think that for a developer to have to make improvements, there has to be some nexus, some cause-effect relationship. So and they look at existing issues and then how much their development compounds those issues, and then legally, I think they're only responsible for that increment. But that doesn't mean in a development agreement there aren't things that can be agreed to. But from my perspective, I feel like there's a whole bunch of interest groups with things that they want. We've talked about signalizing San Bruno, Bayshore, and can the developer pay for that? So it's not a, it's not a limitless pot of money.
Yeah.
It's like if we wanted that, there would be something else that didn't get, the city didn't get. So
What about state or federal funds, for roadway improvement, or like the next time they have to pave, part of Bayshore or like that, is that
yeah,
a possibility? Or
there are sources of funds for bike and pedestrian facilities that are, they're typically in, we wanted to say this earlier on that crossing at the flyovers. They're based on the quantity of use, what kind of counts you have, and how much it's going to improve use, and also what the safety factor is perceived versus honestly sometimes, how many accidents have you had if it's a safety kind of grant. But
Right.
there is a lot of money for bike ped facilities. We kind of, I guess we should probably be talking to the committee about this, is that we had there was a quick strike program that they asked us for grant ideas. And this is kind of why we had you guys look at stuff, but we've kind of got an eye on improving the bus stop at BWR and Bayshore in the northbound direction on the opposite side from the trailer park, and moving it just north of BWR and making it ADA compliant, because some people at the trailer park, they don't want to go the street, and there have been fatalities in the past. So that's kind of our number one thing when a grant like that comes up to go for. But there's always money for bike ped projects. And then in the ped direction, we have all the walkways in town, and we've been applying for grants for those. So pretty soon they've got to give us some money. If we keep applying, they can't keep ignoring us. So
we can hope.
There's a lot, but when we have the list, then if it fits, we can apply. That's what we want to do. That's the best way, because none of these things are cheap. So
yeah,
it's on
So it
the
might
list,
be-
and you guys have said we want it, then we can go and look for the grants.
So it might be helpful to, if there was a proposal for an alternative bike path on Bayshore, to incorporate that with a pedestrian pathway, which may increase our chances of obtaining funding for that project, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it depends. It depends how competitive the grant program is. The grants tend to be really competitive, and obviously, we're at a disadvantage compared to larger cities, which have more, bike and pedestrian traffic, and also more, a higher number of accidents that support, a large scale improvement. Obviously,
But we keep showing up and asking, so
Yeah.
We'll get some sometimes.
What's your take on this infrastructure bill? It looks like they're gonna, there's going to be a massive bill, so they're going to provide funds for, it's supposed to fix bridges, roads, and there's also a component on environment, which bike lanes and walkways also help with the environment.
Yeah, if they can get that out the door, I think it'll mean more than the normal opportunities for us. And some of them will be like, if you can get a project out the door, then we've got money for you, So that's good. And these are good things to add to the list of stuff that we can ask for money for.
Okay. Shall we move on to the next item then, if there's no more discussion on that? Education outreach regarding the safe pedestrian routes to schools. Christian, do you have anything on that?
No, I don't at this moment. I know that I wish Ernie was here, but he will probably have more insight in terms of when are they going to open school start date. But I know because of the construction that is going on over there, they're probably delaying it for 2 or 3 weeks. So
yeah, I think they've already opened Brisbane Elementary and Littman Middle School. I think they've already open to hybrid, a hybrid setup where some people go in person. But yeah, I don't know what their exact schedule is. That being said, I know that Christian, I think the last thing that we had talked about was the poster containing the walking tips for kids to be able to see. So let me just pull that up and share that with you, because we made it look, the last time we did have a list, but we were working on making it look nice. So this is something that Sean prepared for us with, and he did this in Canva and added all the graphics. So this is what the flyer poster with the walking tips looks like. It looks really good. So kudos to him for putting this
Yeah, it's
together.
very nice.
That's very
It
nice.
looks great.
Yes.
And so I've passed this on to the principals of BES and Littman and asked them, to either post this on bulletin boards that are visible, or make them available, hand them out as flyers. So it's up to them how they want to do that. But I think another thing we'll want to do is maybe make this available here at City Hall or at the new library.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yep.
But
That's
this is the finished product, which looks fantastic. So
Yeah, oh, it's so nice. I love the medallions too.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yes. Do middle schools still have homeroom every day?
I don't know. We'd have to ask a middle school student, I think.
No, I
Christian,
think they
you're a
do.
middle school dad, right?
Yeah, I think they do. What I was saying in respect to the start day of school. I know that last year they opened up the schools for hybrid here in Brisbane, but because they're remodeling now the middle school, the start day is going to be delayed like 2 weeks. So in that sense, I think we have more time to reach out how they would like to distribute this beautiful poster that you guys did. So
Would it be appropriate to ask the homeroom teachers to actually review this with their students one day during homeroom time?
yeah, that's a great idea, because that's what homeroom teachers do.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the middle school?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They have a safe route to school officer. So they've taken kids practice riding their bikes to school and done like bike checks and given out helmets and they do all of that. So maybe she would go into the classrooms and do it as if she's still there, Michelle Chan.
Is she still there?
Fantastic.
I
don't know.
I haven't heard from her in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's a teacher aide too, isn't she?
I
not
guess
sure,
so.
but
Yeah, I guess
maybe.
she does. She has multiple roles.
Yeah. No, she's great.
Yeah, I guess, well, I already shared it with the principals. I guess Tracy and Jolene, I imagine they would coordinate with Michelle about this, or the superintendent.
So where else you planning to post it? So you have the library, the pool would be a good place.
Oh, the pool, yeah.
So library, pool, where else?
What about at the skate park? Is there an outdoor billboard or posting place at the skate park?
It's all wire fence. I'm not sure about that. So maybe by the water fountain. Well, definitely in the park.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way that we could, I don't know, laminate it or something.
Yeah, put some zip ties. Yeah.
Is there a bulletin board at the park? I thought there was something out there.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
by the restrooms and also on that gazebo.
Oh, there is,
What is
there is
there?
like a board?
Yeah, I mean, the wall.
It's not an existing bulletin board, I don't think, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
look into posting it.
I guess it wouldn't be illegal to post it since it's a city, since it's a city poster, you know, it wouldn't be considered littering or graffiti or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But
Could we,
yeah, I thought
Can we-
about, oh, sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
just wondering if we could get the graphic in, you know, the star and such.
Yeah, well, I guess we haven't put this in the star yet.
Well,
Thought-
in a while, we've put it in lots of
Yeah.
times, but not in a while.
Well,
I-
we had an article in the Star, you know, about the walk routes, but it wasn't formatted. It wasn't this particular, you know, this particular flyer. It wasn't formatted like this.
I mean, this is a very catchy, full page, you know, full
Yeah.
page ad, so to speak. I think
Yeah.
it would catch a lot of attention.
Would it be
Yeah.
too late to get it out for the next edition? You know, since school's starting in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
well, it wouldn't. I think we'd be able to make the September edition.
No,
Better late than
luminary too.
never.
We could talk to the chamber to see if they want to put it in the luminary.
Is a luminary that's more geared towards businesses, though, right?
Everybody gets
Yeah.
it.
Oh, okay.
Every
Yeah,
household gets that.
residents get it. Yeah.
Maybe Star next door with Carolyn or Carolyn's, you know, mass email announcements.
Oh, yeah. In the blast.
The blast, yes.
Close places.
Okay, if
So,
nothing else
yeah.
on that topic, why don't we move on to sight lines? Linda, I had nothing to add. Did you have anything on that sight line? You're on mute.
I don't have anything to add right now. I'm sorry.
So I think we can kind of wrap this item up. So maybe I'll just give a brief description about what we talked about the last time the subcommittee met, and we sort of looked at all of the intersections that were on the list. Let me just pull up the agenda so we have the list of intersections.
Trying to be brief, we're already over time, Justin.
Yeah, I think you wanted me to just go over it briefly and then maybe we'll, so after this item is one-way streets, maybe we can push that back to a later meeting. And I guess just given the, do you want me to go over the sightlines really quick, or do you want to skip to the speeding issues on Mission Blue?
Well, why don't you ask the chair?
Patrick, what are your thoughts on that? Given that it's already 8:12.
I think probably let's go to speeding issues, and I think we could maybe cover that quickly so that we can wrap up the meeting rather quickly.
Okay. Yeah, so I sent you all the speed data that we got. The counter was placed out on Mission Blue, just west of Checker Spot, you know, just west of the top of the hill there. And it was out there for a week. And I believe the 85th percentile speed was 33 miles an hour, which is 8 miles above the posted 25-mile-an-hour limit. So something that that we had talked about internally as staff is we thought about the, can you all see the Google Maps, the satellite view?
Yes.
So we thought about doing some kind of chicane on this block of Mission Blue between Foxborough and Checker Spot. Basically taking out some of this parking and creating like a a lateral shift in the travel lane to get people to slow down. So it would basically be, I guess, how did Randy characterize it again?
I'm trying to remember.
I think it was, we would take out part of the parking here. So the eastbound lane here, you can see the lane going to the right. We would kind of shift it to the right and take out parking here. And that lateral shift, basically, it gets people to slow down because they kind of have to do a little jog.
Kind of like what they've done on Potrero Avenue in San
Yeah.
Francisco, where I live. Moving, instead of you just can go straight down this like wide open.
You have a slight curve to kind of navigate. I guess we can also consider the stick-on rumble strips as a way to slow traffic down. We just installed those on San Benito Road. And so far we haven't gotten any complaints about it.
You'd probably want to get some neighbor
No-
feedback.
Yeah, didn't you say like the rumble strips and sometimes cause a noise issue?
Yeah, these are so these are rubber strips that you lay down across the road, and they make less noise than like the buttons, if you've seen the raised buttons. So these are a bit quieter.
So 30 miles an hour is significant enough to propose, some measures to decrease the speed. 8 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah, well, given the fact that it's so much higher than the posted speed limit, if this were an actual speed survey where we were, like a study where we were setting the speed limits and we had this data, technically we would have to increase the speed limit to 30.
Got it.
So if
it's a certain percentage.
Yeah, you're only allowed to adjust the 85th percentile speed so much, So technically, if this were a speed study, for setting speed limits, we would have to raise the speed limit. So we can look into, these traffic calming solutions as a way to try to get traffic to slow down. Not only here, but I guess we can also look down here by Mission Blue Field, where we also had data that suggested higher than 25 mile an hour, 85th percentile speed. But
If I remember correctly, at Mission Blue, the speed was significantly more than 33. I thought the 85 percentile was over 40.
At the center, you mean, over the.
I'm sorry, say again?
So, well, it's all Mission Blue Drive. You mean over by Mission Blue Center?
Okay. I wonder if this item is important enough that we should form a working group, a subcommittee on this. I'd be willing to serve on that if there's interest from the committee to do that.
I'd be interested as well.
Anyone else other than Alex and I?
Yes, I would be happy to help.
Well, Linda,
Great.
you got your
Thank
hands
you,
full.
Linda.
Linda's on all of them.
Better stay busy.
Yeah, Patrick, you got your hands full too.
That's okay.
Okay, so Alex, Lau, and Linda and Patrick. And I guess why don't we focus on this segment of Mission Blue first, or do you want to look at it all together? I think this one was the section that had been asked about the most.
There's also another section in terms of safety wise, I would be the towards Guadalupe Canyon on Mission Blue.
Oh, down here?
Yeah, coming up the hill, yeah. That part, there's, people up and down this hill part is where I would be. I think there's some safety concerns because you're going up a crest of a hill. So if you're speeding, you don't notice like pedestrians or cars coming from checkered spot, turning left or turning right. Because you're coming up the crest of the hill if you're speeding. The sight lines are just in terms of the issue, going
Well, let's do that
in that
at the
area.
subcommittee,
Yeah.
since we're,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Alex, do
Sure,
you
in
want to
time.
take the lead on this item?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And just going backwards to the bike, the bike subcommittee at Bayshore Boulevard. Who wants to take the lead on that? So that was Linda, Christian, and Alex Bain.
Christian, do you want to take the lead on that?
Sure, I could do that.
Okay. I'd rather be support person than lead right now.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this item?
Let's move forward and wrap up then as quickly as we can. We're down to 10 minutes left. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's, I guess if we could try to wrap up in 10 minutes, that'd be ideal.
What's our time constraint? What's our time constraint?
we posted as 6:30 to 8, so we're already
Yeah.
on.
Oh, well, never mind then.
We just have.
Take
we
an
just-
hour.
Okay,
There's too much fun to fit into hour-and-a-half meetings.
Let's move forward then to item E, updating the bicycle pedestrian master plan. Is there anything to report?
Or I think we could just put that on for next time unless there's nothing, unless we're.
Okay. Staff updates?
Yeah, so we have a couple of updates on pavement maintenance projects. So I think in an earlier meeting, I mentioned that I talked about the rubberized Cape seal, basically a surface seal that uses recycled rubber from tires as part of the mix. So we had gotten a grant from CalRecycle to do a joint project with the city of South San Francisco because our project size didn't meet the eligibility requirements. So we partnered with the city to be able to come up with a project big enough to meet the eligibility requirements. That project, well, we were planning to do it as a joint project under one contract, but we decided to split the two projects. So Brisbane would have its own project and South San Francisco would have its own project. And I think both projects are scheduled for construction sometime in the spring of 2022. So for our project, that would be a rubberized Cape seal on Sierra Point Parkway between Lagoon Road and the Highway 101 overpass. So basically doing a surface seal on top of the existing roadway as a preventative maintenance treatment that utilizes recycled tires as part of the mix. And then we also have a slurry seal project, conventional, traditional slurry seal project in central Brisbane. I think various streets, I think they're more on the west side of central Brisbane. So, Mariposa, Monterey, Humboldt, Sierra Point, and then Park Lane, Park Place, and a few others. So that slurry seal project, we have a contract, we've awarded to a contractor, and we don't have a schedule yet, but we're hoping to do that sometime this summer before the construction season comes to a close. And I think, sorry, I'm getting some. And then the last update I have is I just wanted to let the committee know that that we're working on a striping reconfiguration of Old County Road, between Bayshore and Visitation. Just sort of planning ahead for a future resurfacing project where we have the opportunity to restripe the roadway to include bike lanes, and to also get rid of the center median, which is where the delivery trucks that load onto that deliver supplies to the Brisbane Village Shopping Center They've been using that median, and we want to, make it easier, make it legal for them to be able to do their deliveries from the street. So we're proposing to add a loading zone on the curbside in front of the village for them, and that'll clear up some space to be able to add parking also on that side of the street where you have sidewalk, and then also add in class 2 bike lanes. Patrick, you have your hand up.
Yeah, that's an area a few months ago, we looked at bicycle car interaction issues. And I'm wondering if it would be good for the subcommittee group that worked on that work with you on what that plan will be.
Yeah, we can work with this. I think that was Alex Bain and Alex Lau, I think, for that
And
one.
Linda. Yeah, and Linda.
Yeah.
Incorporating those are the proposals or our proposals, when you guys restripe or repave.
Okay. Well, we already kind of have a design in progress. So I guess if you guys want to take a look at that when it's ready, and get your feedback on that before we present to the full committee.
I'd very much like to see it because I can't visualize how we're going to have both delivery parking and bike lane that works there. It's a little confusing. So looking forward to seeing what the plan is.
Yeah.
I'm curious, who owns that B of A lot?
Well, Bank of America does, but I think they're that's closing though, right? So I'm not sure who's going to.
It's already closed.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure who's going to purchase it or take it over.
That they own it or that they leased it or?
No, they own it. They own the property.
Wondering if that could be utilized, for other purposes, so that allow the trucks to come in, create more space, or allow the trucks to go in there to offload their supplies, whatever.
Yeah.
I heard they're going to do a low income housing, which I'm not sure how realistic that is. It's not that big.
I hadn't heard that. I doubt that property owner how would the property owner benefit from letting the other property park their trucks there,
Yeah.
But anyways, I think Justin, you went into too much detail. You sort of said, we're working on this and we're going to share it, and then subcommittee.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
So that's basically, yeah. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any staff updates.
Okay. Chair committee member matters, just an announcement, and actually I probably should have said this at the beginning of the meeting. I forgot. Ernie has resigned from the committee. And so those groups, I think he was lead on one or two groups, I guess, if those, and I forget which ones they were, but if those two groups would put their heads together, pick a new lead, that would be, I think, good.
I think he was sightlines for one. Can't remember.
Yeah, it was sightlines, but I think that item is pretty much complete.
And education, was it education?
And I think
Education outreach, yeah.
So education outreach is, I think, pretty much complete as well, unless, well, Christian is the lead on that one.
Okay.
And the city clerk will start advertising for the openings on all of the committees and commissions in the fall, with the goal to be placing someone in all of the committees that have openings in like January.
So what's a quorum with 6 committee members?
Still four.
Okay, I mean, not a quorum.
So you can have 3 on a subcommittee and you're okay.
Okay, that's my question was. All right, thank you.
Does anybody have any interest in hybrid meetings where you could be in the community meeting room on the dais? I don't know if anybody saw the demonstration they did the council last month, and it basically is like one of the screens on the Zoom meeting is in the council chambers of the dais. So then it's called a hybrid meeting, and it's something that we have the option to do before the end of the order that lets us do virtual meetings. Does anybody want to go?
I actually attended a hybrid meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, so those are pretty cool. I mean, you get to see each other again, the ones who attend.
Right.
If-
And then, and the public supposedly can also come to the community meeting room. I don't know if anybody's experienced that yet with their meetings. I guess we'll have to check with our counterparts, but we're just wondering how the committee felt. Like if there was an interest in being in the community meeting room, or we just rather wait until it's like required.
Yeah, I don't know about the public.
Yeah, I think we've got the Delta variant breathing down our neck and probably getting more important as far as changing our lives again. And then right behind that is the Lambda variant, which we don't know much about yet, but I wouldn't be comfortable in that kind of a setting where, there were other people and in a closed room at this point. I think we're gonna
You'd
close down
apparently
more.
have to wear a mask too. now.
Yeah, well, mask,
Oh,
but
definitely.
also, we just don't know enough about it, and it is growing. So here we go again.
Well, yeah,
I
we
w-
hadn't gotten direction not to do them yet. We may, so.
I think back a year and a half ago, and we were all sitting thinking, gee, what happens if we can't have meetings? And then all of a sudden, we couldn't have meetings. So as much as I want to come back in person and have the hybrid, I think we're better off staying remote and just planning on remote for a while. I think there's enough unknown about Delta and its trajectory that for everyone's safety, we might be better served just staying remote.
I agree.
Yeah, and maybe
I
a
agree
few
with
weeks ago, we would have heard something different, but we can, as of now, the governor's orders allow us to do completely virtual until the end of September. And I think if things are not great, they'll probably extend it. So it's perfectly fine to meet virtually, and we prefer it too. So,
Okay, let's just do that.
all right.
All right,
Anything else to discuss or cover tonight?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes,
Second,
motion to
second.
adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Alrighty.
Have
Next
a good
month,
weekend.
Thank you.
or
A good week,
or at a subcommittee.
Yeah.
and wear your mask.
See y'all next
all right,
month.
thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
All right, cheers, guys.
Good
See
night.
you next month.
Good night.
Bye.